So, Mark, did you see the newest gorilla down on Fremont Street? He's blue, just more proof that Vegas is healing.
I don't know. I think that gorilla should watch out for his Rolex.
You never know on Fremont Street. So happy Friday, everyone. And it's a beautiful weekend. Well, I don't know how beautiful it is, Mark. The summer weather is here and it's hot.
Yeah, it's so hot that our friend Candace's car is like shutting down from the heat.
Yeah, Vegas, where all your electronics come to die. But we have some other stuff to talk about this week. Caesars, some good news for Caesars, Mark. All we do is cover negative stuff, it seems like. But there is a lot of positive stuff, the all-inclusive deal. And despite the fact that they've been cutting back elite benefits, like their drink offerings and things like that, the Laurel Lounges, they just added back a very popular benefit, the free show for Diamond members, and it's better than ever. It's all digital now. You do it through the app, and you kind of have to be on property, which sucks, but Absinthe is on there along with a ton of other shows.
Yeah, it's cool to see this back. I honestly had kind of forgot that it went away because it went away during COVID, and I just assumed it came back. I haven't been a Diamond member for 4 or 5 years now, so it just was never on my radar anymore. And I know you could do like the LINQ High Roller and maybe bodies for a little while, even when it was down. So it's good to see them open it back up fully. And then the negative was always like that not the best shows were on there. Penn and Teller, I think, was the best show that used to be available. So seeing Absinthe on there is awesome. And I wish that would have been an option back when I was a Diamond member.
Yeah, I don't know what it says about Absinthe in their ticket sales that they're doing this, but I think it's great and it's a show everybody should see. One other thing I noticed on there was the zipline at FlyLINQ is on there. And Diamond, you get 2 tickets or 4 for 7 stars, but you can zipline now, which is really cool as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I believe Piff's on there, which I think he was on and off, and it depended on the time. I don't think he was fully on there all the time, and I've always wanted to see his show, so I'm glad to see he's another option for people.
And speaking of Piff, Mark, Piff, he's doing a whole tour with Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller. This is the first time Penn is going on tour, I think, in like 40 years without his compatriot over at Rio. And speaking of them, they've been at the Rio for like 26 years. And then before that, they were at Bally's and MGM Grand. They've been in the city forever. And of course, Rio, all this transition over the last few years, sold to Dreamscape, all the renovations, but the Penn and Teller Theater is still there. And their contract is coming up, but they just extended for another 3 years, making them the longest headliners at a single place in Vegas history.
That's kind of crazy when you think about it, of all the people that have been in Vegas for a long time, but they would move theaters or go to different casinos, stuff like that. And Penn and Teller have really been a mainstay at Rio, which is so cool to see. And I think they said they've done over 12,000 live shows. Think about that. That is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, and if you want to see Piff and Penn together, then you have to go to the UK, but they're doing that tour together, which is an interesting thing. These guys, I've seen plenty of interviews with them. They're not the best of friends, Penn and Teller, but they work together in the greatest ways and truly part of Vegas history. They've earned everything that they get, unlike some magicians who have already vanished from the city, thankfully, in the last couple months.
Are you trying to say they're like Mike and Mike in the morning and they hate each other but just show up to work?
I think they, or Siskel and Ebert, or Mark and Sean. But let's talk about what happens when you take over the streets. This is a new phenomenon, I think, all over the country where people take over the streets with their cars and they drive like crazy. And the local police in Vegas are saying none of that. In fact, there's tons of videos that are coming out of Vegas of this happening. And to fight back, the police took 2 of the cars that they seized during different incidents and they shredded them, and then they put the video out on social media for all to see.
Man, that's doing them dirty. It's always insane when you see these videos and people are standing all around the circle as they're doing the drifting, and usually someone gets hit because they get a little too close, or maybe they jump over the car, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So I'm not surprised that they took action. These cars, man, I expected the lights, the fluorescent lights underneath them, like Fast and Furious. It seems like they came straight from the movie.
Yeah, 2009 Infiniti G37S, 2007 Nissan 350Z. These are those old souped up cars that people love to drive. I swear I'll go drive on a route that I just drove last week and then I'll see new marks in the pavement. So this seems to be happening all over the city and it is a problem. And I just love the trolling by the police officers. And you see it all the way down to the chunks after it's completely scrapped, which is, funny, but a little heartbreaking, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they're able to do this. Take property and smash it up. I don't know how they got around that or what the laws are, but maybe it will deter people from doing it again.
As a reminder, we have our Patreon. You can get access to our weekly after show, lots of fun, things we can't talk about on YouTube, things going on with our travel, our lives. And on this recent one, we talked about that Sigma Derby parade, everything behind that. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all the information. And thanks to everyone in our Patreon community. So let's talk Golden Knights for a second. Obviously, they lost the Stanley Cup Finals last week. We talked about that. We talked about John Tortorella coming in with 8 games left in the season and this miracle run that they went on and all that to happen. He got fired. The Golden Knights says, hey, great job in the playoffs. Great job saving this season, but we don't want you for another season. And apparently he did want to come for another season. But Ryan Craig, who's been with the organization since 2017, has come up as an assistant coach, then took over as the Henderson Silver Knights. That's the AAA hockey franchise of the Golden Knights. And he's now the head coach. So thanks for your service, Tortorella, but it's no longer needed.
Yeah, when I saw this breaking news, I just assumed he had signed on and knew it was going to be like a short term, get us to the playoffs, hopefully get us through the playoffs, and that he was going back into retirement. I didn't know that he wanted to do another year, and it's kind of crazy that they wouldn't give him another year. And maybe that was just they had that understanding, and then he really enjoyed the team and said, hey, maybe I could come back. And they said no, but you usually would say, hey, let's run it back. And then the other question is, if they had this guy already in the system, why didn't they just give him the coaching job to finish the year?
Yeah, it seems like they want Ryan Craig, and he was always going to be the replacement, and they just didn't feel like bringing him in at that point in the season made sense. So bring in a veteran. It's weird. I don't remember any sort of professional coaching thing that happened like this. The only thing that would have made this story better is if they actually won.
Yeah, and then he gets fired.
Yeah, he would. I think so. I think it would have happened either way. I don't know, but Golden Knights, the 5th coach, Ryan Craig, coming next year. But let's get nerdy for a second. Nerdy in Vegas. This comment came on the show talking about Caesars being sold, and it said for years, maybe decades, there's been talk that Caesars will build another tower in place of one of their parking garages. With the pending sale and the rumors, do you think the new tower might actually happen? And so here we'll look at a satellite image of where the parking garages are. And I think this is the least desirable land at Caesar's Palace. There is one garage that's sort of close to the ring of the pool where you could somehow connect it to the pool area and do it. I don't think the views would be very good from that. And I just don't think that that's going to be a priority. But you know, it's certainly a fascinating thing. And if anybody can squeeze another tower, it's Caesar's Palace.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing Caesar's Palace needs more of is a hodgepodge build to confuse people from where they're going or getting around that property. I don't know that Caesar's is like selling out enough that they need more towers. Maybe that would be different if they offload some properties after the purchase and then they want to add more rooms back to Vegas. This would be some land that they could take over and build it up there. And Caesars is one of their top 2 or 3 properties in Vegas. So it would make sense that you want to add there. Similar to how we saw a Horseshoe Tower get moved over to Paris so they could get better rates. If you're going to add rooms, some of the top rates are going to be at Caesars. So it would kind of make sense there. I just don't see it happening anytime soon.
And the one other thing that probably keeps this from happening is Caesar's Palace is one of the couple properties in Vegas where Caesars doesn't own the land. It doesn't even make sense in that way. All right, Mark, so let's go on a road trip. We recently talked about the world's largest thermometer on sale in Baker, California for $1.8 million, and then talked about the UFO hotel out there as well, the alien beef jerky. So I was recently driving back from LA after my flight from Morocco and had to stop there. First off, shout out to Barstow and the original Del Taco menu, the Barstow menu. If you haven't eaten at Del Taco in Barstow, one of those 3 locations, you haven't eaten Del Taco.
I do love myself some Del Taco. I'm glad that you got to go there and check it out. I know you still prefer Rubio's over Del Taco. I'm a Del Taco man myself.
Rubio's and Del Taco are different things. I've been eating Del Taco since I was born, basically. So I go there all the time. That's actually my preferred. I love it on the road trip. I'll always stop at usually the one on Lenwood Road. But Baker, man, we pulled up to the alien jerky place, Mark, and it was packed. And it makes me wonder why I don't have money to finish the UFO hotel. But since we had talked about it, I thought I'd get some better shots and show people just how cool this spaceship building is. And then when you go inside, the jerky is like $14 for basically a 4-ounce package or 2 for $22. Not cheap at all, but it is a delicious, really good quality jerky. All kinds of gags and different things around. Alien Donald Trump, all kinds of alien everything. You also got Mad Greek out there. We'll talk about the Thermometer in a second, but a really cool place. It's about 90 minutes from Vegas if you really want to make the drive out there.
Yeah, I know you love the invisible jerky. I think it was like $2 I saw on the package for that. And just an empty bag, a good gag gift if you know somebody that likes jerky. And but I'm really impressed by the look of the UFO hotel. Like I expected to be kind of, slapped together and not look all that great. And when I saw the video, I'm like, wow, this actually looks really, really cool, and it looks really well done. I don't know what's taking so long. You would think the outside and just getting that shape to work would be a lot of the costs and the hassle, and they seem to have done that and knocked it out of the park. So I'm curious to see what the inside looks like. They have that outdoor like video screen that shows like some stuff of the hotel, but you could have like movie nights there in the evening for guests staying at the hotel or just anybody that's kind of in the area. And it looks like they're going to have like an outdoor snack shop or something right in front of the hotel.
Yeah, it does look like a snack shop. It wasn't open. There's another building behind the hotel that's sort of alien themed as well, but there's a fence so you can't get back there. So right now, only the jerky store is open, but like I said, it was packed. And that's sort of we're stopping at too, just for all the fun stuff. And then across the street is the old Bun Boy Motel, which is abandoned, and the $1.8 million thermometer that you can buy with a little tiny gift shop. But I just wanted to get closer views. People could see better how it looks like the spectacle out in the middle of the desert, built in 1992 and is still going strong today.
Yeah, how was the gift shop inside for 1.8 million?
I don't have any video of it. I just peeked my head in there. The person kind of gave me a look, so I didn't film inside the gift shop, but there's not much to it. There's some EV chargers out back. I don't know where you get to that valuation, but I want somebody to save this thermometer. It's a historic thing.
Oh, put it in your backyard.
You made fun of Bun Boy on the last show, said it was a big boy knockoff. So I did some research. They both date back, like Bun Boy dates back to the 50s. The restaurant before that, but they both have these like really old followings. Of course, Bun Boy was only ever in Barstow and Baker, so you would never know outside of it, but they were known for their pies. And it's so sad to see the old restaurant, which eventually became a big boy for a few years after Bun Boy closed, just sitting there abandoned. And that Hawaiian motel I filmed a few years ago, you can find the video here on the channel, completely gone other than the signs now. So yeah, a little bit of history, roadside Americana changing, but I think that UFO hotel is worthy of opening and showing us what it's got.
Well, after we talked about last episode how busy Denny's was, somebody needs to open up a Bun Boy or a Big Boy on the Strip and it'll kill.
Yes, bring back Bun Boy on the Strip. That would be cool. But yes, a lot of people pointed out, Mark, we didn't talk about the value that Denny's provides, one of the cheaper breakfasts on the Las Vegas Strip.
I think they have good deals for lunch and dinner too. So if you're looking for value and you're down in that area, I think it is a great option. And it looks like it's one of the busier ones in the country. So they must be doing something right.
Yeah. So stop being elitist, Mark. Go eat that Denny's next time.
I've eaten at Denny's. I like Denny's. I like Applebee's. I like IHOP. I like all those things.
Somebody else said it's like going to the Applebee's in Times Square. Mark's probably eaten at that Applebee's.
No, I'm not. Olive Garden's the other one. Big in New York.
Oh, yes. It might have been Olive Garden. Anyway, same thing, right? No. In a second, we're going to talk about how they are going to rescue you down in the Tesla tunnels. But before we do, love to invite you to subscribe. Thousands of you watch every show. You are not subscribed. It helps us reach more people. Just takes a second on your TV, on your phone, wherever you are. Hit that button. Thanks in advance. But we've talked recently about the Tesla fire truck that they have to develop for the Vegas Loop. As the tunnels get longer, safety becomes more of an issue. They have been training firefighters since the very beginning to go into these tunnels, so this isn't something new. But they just recently completed a new rigorous hands-on technical rescue exercise in the tunnel. They say more than 200 firefighters have now trained down there, and more than 150 hours of drills have happened. And there's one picture, Mark, where the firefighter has to like brace himself on the tunnel wall to be able to use the tool because there's so little space, but they seem like they got it figured out.
Yeah, it's good that they're doing the training down there and they're getting used to the environment and what would have to happen. I still wonder, have they submitted the plans for these the special fire truck that they're supposed to have down there? Boring companies just waiting on the city to even give them an idea of what they want after several years, which is kind of crazy. But it's good to see them doing this, and they should have used those cars that they shredded. They should have let the firemen wrench them open down in the tunnel. And I know it's not a Tesla, but could have been something to practice on before they shredded them.
Yeah, I personally would love for there to be a test fire there so they could see how it actually works, but I get the logistics of doing that. But wouldn't you feel better if we actually saw them do this under real fire conditions and to see how that would work?
Yeah, like let's get a battery going full in fuego and see what happens.
What's the worst that could happen? I don't know. Let us know down below. A lot of people say they're not safe. A lot of people still don't feel safe. I just try not to think about it when I'm down there.
I guess you just pray.
And let's close with this interview with Paul Steelman on the corner of Main Street, Plaza's podcast. This happened about a month ago with our travel and stuff. Didn't have time to properly listen to it and then discuss it. Of course, Paul has built so many of the casinos, not only in Las Vegas, Macau, all around the world. One of the most storied architects in Las Vegas history. And just having him sit down for this conversation where he went into all kinds of different topics was just fascinating. I've had the pleasure of speaking with him a little bit behind the scenes. His love of Las Vegas, of the spectacle of Las Vegas, of building it to tell a story, shines through in every discussion I've ever had, but also in this. And I think anybody who loves Las Vegas should absolutely listen to this interview.
Yeah, so many good stories and details, and I know we're going to dive into quite a bit of it, but it's just so interesting to hear a take from somebody on the inside that built these properties and also had a hand in planning a whole bunch of stuff that didn't happen, and how Steve Wynn turned down certain things that ended up other people would pick up, and so much good info.
Yeah, lots of great Steve Wynn stories in this. He started as an in-house architect with Steve Wynn. I didn't know he was in-house at the time, which is very interesting. He talks about how they came to the final design of Mirage. They had tried different British colonial styles, different styles of architecture. Before at like 2 a.m., he came up with this idea, pitched it to Steve Wynn. He says Steve Wynn had, he was hard to work for. Sometimes he would throw models on the ground, stuff like that. But he doesn't always get it right. He does at one point talk about Derek Stevens and that he had pitched the giant sportsbook idea to Steve Wynn, who hated it. And he also has great things to say about Derek Stevens, who he sees as a modern day visionary.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about last episode with just how he's forefront and able to kind of create all the spectacle of Vegas still, and you don't see a lot of that anymore. And I remember when I would first come to Vegas, like you get in the back of the cab and every single cab had the Steve Wynn commercial on there talking about his properties, showing you behind the scenes of all the cool stuff that you can do there. And I think Derek Stevens the closest to that we have these days.
Yeah, one of the things Paul talks a lot about is, setting up Las Vegas for the experience, setting it up as you approach it, building hotels further back. And one of the stories he talked about with Mirage is how when they were designing the building, how they moved it around the property many times from 150 feet to 600 feet back. And they settled on 350 feet, which is where the volcano went. But they moved it around the property. How could you create the experience? Whereas nowadays, he calls them capitalistic obstacle courses. I think a great example maybe in front of Horseshoe, where you have those big buildings and stuff like that. And they don't really set the stage for what comes next. And that's been a huge part of what he does. And, we've done this show for a long time, and I can't tell you that I've met somebody who's so prevalent in Vegas, who cares more about the city. This guy, not only is he there actually making it, but he actually cares so much, which is refreshing in every way.
Yeah, I mean, today in today's society, it's take advantage of every single speck of real estate you have. Like, put something that's going to make money everywhere you can. And we've talked about this a lot on the show, how the grandness of Vegas, when you used to go into these properties, they were set back. You could kind of see them, the scope of it, and just it would take you into a different world as you're walking up. And Bellagio still has that because of the fountains, and hopefully it'll always have that type of setback. But we've seen Hard Rock take over the Mirage space, and they're building right on top of the Strip, which I get. And the spectacle is going to be the guitar. It's going to look awesome, but it doesn't have the same feel as walking into the Mirage did back then. And we just don't have that. Caesars has lost a bit of it. You're building up to the street. You don't get the fountain view as well when you're going around, and it just doesn't seem the same. And that started with back when it was Bally's, when they put those little like shanties, and I think he called them chicken boxes at some point during the interview or something along those lines. But this kind of was like these makeshift slapstick boxes. I don't know that he was specifically talking about Bally's, but that's the one I always think of. It used to be kind of not the most grand entrance, but you had this open space leading up to the hotel. You're taking the escalator in, and then they just had all these like makeshift that seemed like they weren't full-time places that didn't kind of cheapen the whole experience.
And on the obstacle course front, he talks about the A's Stadium, and he said he recently did a tour with Fisher of the stadium and the architecture and how beautiful the stadium is going to be. We've all talked about the Sydney Opera House vibes and all that. And to his view, it's going to be covered up by an obstacle course, all of the screens and shops and everything else that they're going to squeeze into that tiny plot of land on the corner.
Well, that's if Bally's ever starts.
Yeah, maybe we'll get lucky and it'll just be the ballpark. and hopefully a power plant, Mark, or else those glow in the dark baseballs. You know,
Yeah.
you gotta. But there's so many fascinating things in this well over an hour interview. Talks a lot about Macau and building the original Sands there, which was Sheldon Adelson getting into that market, first Western operators in that market, and how they had to do things different. And even how Steve Wynn thought some of the things he did, like the stadium gaming concept, the 60-foot tall ceilings there were crazy, but that proved to be such a successful property. I think he said making $500 million a year for 14 years. Of course, many other casinos have opened up. I think he designed the Four Seasons Macau, which is just one of my favorite hotels in the entire world. One interesting thing he talked about, though, in Macau, they're moving away from the walkways in the casinos and sort of taking that away so it makes it feel more like a living room, something that hasn't quite happened in Vegas yet.
Yeah, I don't know that that will be good for people. I think it'll be kind of confusing. I mean, casinos are already somewhat difficult to traverse, and at least when you get to a walkway, there's usually signs. And I know part of that is they want to drive you to certain things, and he talks about that. But it's just nice to kind of be like, all right, I'm in the center. I kind of know where I'm going here. When it's just one big open space, it can feel kind of overwhelming, I feel like. So I don't know that that will work out, but interesting to see how it plays out. But I like that they had kind of like the parking lot with the lights above it to let you know green or red if there's spaces. And they did that for Baccarat because they had so many tables in there. They could be like, oh, okay, there's a green light over there. And then maybe everybody runs to it. I don't know. Fight to the death for the last chair.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how Macau has become such a big part of the gaming industry, and the numbers there are insane. And one of the things they're doing is driving forward trends. And he talks about Alpha Club, which is newish at MGM in Macau, and it's a private club, 30,000 square feet, members only club. There's gaming, there's dining, there's everything, and you don't pay a thing. You just go inside and everything is included, a super high end space. And I hadn't heard a lot about this before he talked about it on the show, but he says he thinks Vegas needs this. On one hand, that's great, but on the other hand, it's always hard when you get these beautiful spaces that most of us will never get to go into.
How much would that cost? All inclusive in Vegas. The membership would have to be out of reach for almost everyone.
Yeah, like barber, restaurants, everything you need inside there, gaming. I'm kind of obsessed. I'll see if I can get some more pictures or something of this place because I didn't get to see a ton of what it looked like, but it sounds incredible. And I bet we're going to see something like that come to Vegas.
I mean, we've seen it in smaller portions where it's just kind of like a lounge club type of thing, and we've seen more of those over the last couple of years. So I do think this is kind of the next step. I don't know how popular those have been or how successful they've been, but if you're giving all inclusive where they come in and they take care of everything, it's gonna have to be where one, you get enough people, or you just charge enough to make it work.
So we got to close this pretty quick. Before we talk, we're going to talk Resorts World, which there's so much great stuff on Resorts World. But he did dispel some myths. Obviously, the natural lighting casino, that's something we've seen dispelled quite a few times. Lots of casinos these days being built with windows, pumping oxygen in. That's not something that you can do legally. And then he talks about confusing layouts of casinos. Caesar's Palace is a great example. He says the more confusing the layout of the casino, the quicker you want to leave. And so they don't design it that way on purpose. And I agree with that. Like when you get frustrated with a place, you finally find the exit, get me out of here.
Yeah, that I think a lot of people feel that at Caesars at times.
Yeah, but that's just because it's a Frankenstein of a casino that was added onto in so many ways. But let's close with Resorts World. Paul Steelman worked on Resorts World for over 9 years, and many of us have seen the different renderings. Obviously, that first bold render they had put out with all the Chinese design, very red, very Chinese. And he talks about how the political atmosphere was a little bit different when they originally came up with that concept. And over the time in 2016, we had a new president, and the relations between China and the US had changed a little bit. And so they backed off that original design. But he also talks about Halo, which was basically what he designed, like a theme park almost for the front of the property. And a lot of people say Avatar vibes. Corey Leviton also had a great article based on this interview, giving more information. I'll put a link into that so you can see more of what this was supposed to be. But think of this as sort of like a huge interactive space designed to draw you into the property. And this was specifically in relation to a question that Jonathan Jossel talked about. That corner, that anchor nearest Wynn, is a nightclub, right? And how did that become your main entrance to your property?
Yeah, and then we wanted something spectacle-y. We wanted something that draws you in, some theming. And this kind of feels like, I could agree, it feels like a Pandora type of look. The greenery, the water, there's even sand. It kind of looks like you're in a jungle ocean. It looks beautiful, breathtaking. If they could have pulled this off anywhere close to what these renderings look like, I think it would have been a slam dunk. People would love the property. They would go to the property. One, they'd want to stay there because of this access to this, but people would want to go there just to check it out, to look at it, and you would have that draw there. And I know that you decided to go with more rooms. I don't know that that was the right decision, or maybe they could have added more towers later, but I think that this, we've seen it struggle there. There's just nothing really, there's no soul. There's nothing that draws people into Resorts World, and I think that this would have been that, and it would have been the most successful of all the new casinos, in my opinion, if they had done this.
Yeah, and as he walks through the store, you kind of understand how we got the Resorts World that we have today, playing it safe with some of the theming, and then adding more rooms instead of spending the money on something like this. I think Paul has said that the land is still there. There's definitely still land on the strip frontage, which is just landscape now, and then you have that south expansion pad. So he still has hope that this could happen. And he did say that at one point Steve Wynn thought KT Lim, the CEO of Genting, was perhaps the only visionary to go against him because of the theme parks and everything else. He thought they really got it. And it is sort of strange to see what we ended up with at the end. Death by 1,000 cuts, perhaps.
Yeah, this would have been perfect fit for that type of setup. There was going to be some rides in there and other stuff to keep you involved and entertained, as well as just lounging areas and all of that. And it just looks so gorgeous that that's what we want in Vegas. We want something that we don't see anywhere else. And this would have been that. And I think the most telling thing is when he said that every time he goes into Resorts World, it makes him sad.
All I can say is shout out Paul. He watches this show, which I think is amazing. I think that shows you his level of love for Las Vegas, and thanks to everything, all the interactions. But if you love Las Vegas, you should listen to this show. Jonathan Jossel with a great interview, and just sort of laying out so much behind the scenes of Vegas and architecture and casinos and what was and what will be and what is. So let us know down in the comments what you think. Resorts World, do you wish we got that version? I don't know, shredding cars. Are our police too mean for doing that? Caesars, the free show. Absinthe, which show are you going to go see? Let us know all that down in the comments, and we will be back next week with a few shows. An extra long show today. Thanks so much for sticking with us. Talk to you next time.
Have a good weekend, everybody. I got it right this time. I fixed it last time, but I cursed, so Sean just cut the whole thing.